All right, kind of as expected today, we're going to be down a few people. Christian already let me know his battery's dead. Tony, our tutor, let me know his battery's dead. So, we're going to go on though, because what I said today was that what we were going to do today was do the written test for Chapter 6 and then the examples for Chapter 7 and Chapter 8. I think what we will do is I'll give the written test tomorrow, just because, like I said, with a third of the class gone, I don't really like to do that. So we'll do that first thing tomorrow. All right? But I'm going to go over one example from Chapter 7 and one example from Chapter 8 with you now. Now, it may not look like it when you look at the handouts, but I've given you both programs. Okay? So you've got those. So people who are not here today will get those tomorrow. I'll have to make sure I pick them all up later, but you'll get the idea. Now, if you look up on the screen, one thing I want to show you is this. First of all, the first program that we're going to go over in just a moment is number 5 in Chapter 7. So it's right here on the screen. I'm not going to read it to you, but I decided I didn't really like the way that it was written. So I changed it around a little bit. If you go back and do your own, you want to do it exactly this way, that's totally fine. All right, I went a little nuts with it, and what I did, and the file I'm going to show you, you have. I sent it to you this morning. Okay, here was the comment that I put in at the beginning. No big thing there. But I went out to this guy's site, joshmadison.com. And this guy must like eating Chinese food, because if you look on the screen, those are the approximately 330 fortunes that he has gotten over time. All right? So I took all those, and I put them into a string array. It took longer to parse that file and put it into a string array than it did to write the program. All right? But you've got that. You don't have to use it. You could grab 2 or 3, whatever. It doesn't really matter. All right? So again, there's a lot of different ways that this can be done. Now, in the handout that I gave you today, this is what I want to show you. So in that handout that you have, if you look up on the screen here, I did not sit there and give you, you can see this stuff in red. I didn't print all that stuff out, because if I did, it would have been about 8 extra pages. So what I did was I just grabbed the first 1 or 2 that you see here, and I copied all of this to about right there. See what I'm saying? And I didn't copy the rest of them. All right? You've got the file with the rest of them in there if you're interested. But I want to come down to the bottom of this, and I want to show you what I did, that I'm going to run the program. Now, I put a few things in here we haven't talked about yet. Are you responsible for knowing what they are? Not right now. Do you have to use those in your program? Not right now. Now, if you look up on the screen, please, this is the interface. Instead of a fortune teller, I made it fortune cookies. All right? And when we run this, what happens is if you click the fortune cookie, this is a button, and that's the image in the button. The image changes so it looks like you cracked open the fortune cookie, and you get the fortune right here. Does that make sense? And then I put in a clear button and an exit button. And I didn't like the fact that with a clear button, you had to click clear. I wanted this picture, once it changes to something broken, I wanted it to change back to this automatically. So what I did was I put a timer in the program, which said after 5 seconds, I'll just run it for you so you can see it. So you click on here, and it picks one of those 300 plus fortunes that I just showed you. So you click here, you'll notice how the image changes. 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, boom. It comes back. Does that make sense? You can come in here, click this. You'll click the clear button right away if you want. All right, but if I click on here, I can click clear right away and make it go back, or I can click on here, wait for 5 seconds, and it'll come back. Okay? They do discuss timers, but it's a lot later in the book. I just thought I'd show it to you. All right? If you go, I don't get it, don't use it. It's totally fine. All right? So just to show you what the program looks like. And again, will all of this make sense? My hope is most of it will make sense. All right? Why? Why am I even showing you this? Because notice the other thing that I did in here. I brought in images. All right? When you work with images, I added an image folder. You don't have to call it that. Sometimes it's IMG. But I added an images folder. In that images folder, I brought in two files. I went out to Google Images, and under Google Images, I found this that I called broken. And there it is. That's the broken fortune cookie. All right. And I found this that I called closed, which was the closed fortune cookie. All right. I even tell you that if you want to use this, what size the box right here is. And I think it's 209 by 163 or something like that. All right. But, so in other words, what I'm saying is when you click the fortune cookie, change the image so instead of showing a fortune cookie, it looks like a broken fortune cookie. Does that make sense? That's what this line does. And again, if you go, that's really confusing, don't use it. You don't have to have any images if you don't want to. It's totally fine. But if I get the chance to show you something that we have to cover later in the book anyway, I just thought I'd put it out there. That's all. All right? Then this says I'm going to set the text in this text box right here, this text. I want to set this text to the results of something called Find Your Fortune. Not very big. It says go through those 300 plus different fortunes, find one of them, and return it. Does that make sense? These lines of code right here, these 3 lines in blue, tell the system, I want you to go through this big thing, this humongous string array that's right here, generate a number, and let's say this is number 157. So that's what it's going to return. Okay? If you want to do yours and, just literally Google top 6 fortunes for a fortune teller, you'll get a list. If you want to just use those, totally fine. All right? Then I did this. This was the timer. When you create a timer, just so you know this, if you look down on the screen here, can everybody see this? It says timer 1 down here. I didn't change the name of it. All right? Timers are what are called invisible controls. In other words, they don't show up on the screen, period. All right? What did I do with this timer? Well, timers don't have a heck of a lot of properties. If you look up on the screen here, the one thing I set was interval, which I set to 5,000, which meant after 5 seconds. That's it. So what did I want to do after 5 seconds? Well, again, just to show you, what I said was, okay, when you come in here and you click this button right here, when you click that button with a fortune on it, change from a fortune cookie to a broken fortune cookie. That's the first thing. After you do that, then start up the timer and have it go for 5 seconds, and after the 5 seconds, change the picture back to the unbroken fortune cookie and turn the timer off. That's all it does. And if you say, I don't get that, I don't expect you to. So I gave you a URL right here as a comment. That's the article that I got the stuff from. So if you want to see that, you can. And if you're like, you know what, I haven't understood a flippin' thing you've said all period, it's okay. If you want to create a really simple little interface that has, for instance, a label and a text box in it, and a button here that says calculate, and you click the calculate button, and in here it picks one of 6 random fortunes, and then there's a clear button and an exit button, totally fine. So yeah, I went a little nuts with this. All right. I would never expect you to do something like this. I would not give you a test with something like this, but again, so you can see. And again, it goes back after 5 seconds to the original picture. Or you can click clear at any time to make it go back to the original picture. All right, this is just a clickable button right here. All right, clear and exit. Does all that make sense? I mean, as far as what's happening in the program? But like I said, we could literally create a program here in 5 minutes. What would you have to do? Well, the key thing to note right here is this. This is going through that array, this thing called Find Your Fortune. It's generating a random number between 0 and the length of the array, all right, -1, and it's going to return that one. So if I had six fortune teller sayings, a tall, handsome, or tall, beautiful stranger will enter your life soon, and wishing doesn't make it so, and whatever. If we had 5 or 6 of those things in there, that's where I started right here, was with this. I went in and typed in I don't know what it was. I think 6 popular fortune teller sayings. All right. And I got these fortune cookie quotes. And I started with that. And it was many, many pages. And then somehow I got pushed off to that other link, the one that I just mentioned to you with James, whatever the heck it was. All right? Thought it was still in my history. Evidently it's not. But what I want you to understand from this, what you are to do for this example, is to create an interface as simple, as ornate, as intricate as you want it to be. And you should store inside of a string array anywhere between 3 or 4 to 12 different sayings. All right? And when you click a calculate button, you should grab 1 or 2 of those sayings, put them in a text box. And you should have an operational clear button, and you should have an operational exit button. Does that make sense? So again, you can go as nuts with it as you want, or make it be as simple as you want it to be. I really don't care. All right. Any questions on that one? All right. The other one that I wanted to quickly go over with you, yeah, I'm doing fast, but the other one I wanted to kind of quickly go over with you here, so that was this one. It's number 5 for Chapter 7. You have to do 3, 4, and 5 for Chapter 7. I've already given you number 5. All right? And then for Chapter 8, Chapter 7 is 4, 5, and 6, sorry. Chapter 8 is 3, 5, and 7. Again, I decided to do number 5. That's just the one I picked. There was nothing special with it. All right? Now, I'm going to discuss something quickly in here that you haven't seen before. We've talked about it a little, but you probably haven't seen it. And that's what are called overloaded methods. If you would, please look up on the screen. See, that's it there. And if you look up on the screen right here, make this small, real small. I guess I can't make it that small. All right, you'll notice that I've got something here called Show Bill and Tip. Would you all agree? The name is Show Bill and Tip. It's returning nothing. You're passing in a double, and you're passing in a double. Does that make sense? Well, then down below it, I've got Show Bill and Tip. But this time you're passing in a double and you're passing in an int. These are what are called overloaded methods. It's 2 methods with the same name, the same return type, but what's in the parentheses is different. All right? So this, I try to keep it simple. You've got all this code. You've got everything that's in here. All right? So you are to create a program named tip calculation, which has those 2 overloaded methods. Again, one that accepts a double for the price of a meal and a double which represents the tip. So if you put in 0.20, for example, that's 20%. That makes sense? I even put a check in mine because what if somebody puts in 20 right here instead of 0.2? All right, because then you're giving them a 2,000% tip. Probably wouldn't want to do that. All right, so you'll see in just a minute where I checked for that. All right, so that's one of the methods. The other one accepts the price of the meal as a double and the tip as an integer. All right. The other night, my wife picked me up, and my daughter was with her, and she said, "We're going to Texas Roadhouse." Okay. So we went to Texas Roadhouse, and we had dinner. And when we got done, when I was figuring out the tip, it was like, you know, I'm actually a pretty decent tipper. It came out, I don't know what the heck it was, but it was something like, I don't know, $8.60 if I figured it out at 20%. I just gave $9. See what I'm saying? I didn't want to have to deal with the change. So I just put another dollar out there. That's kind of what this one is. Okay? So you're passing in a double and you're passing in an integer. For example, as it says there, $30.05, where 30 is the price of the meal and 5 would mean a $5 tip. Okay? All right. So each of these methods that we write should display the price of the meal, the tip as a percentage of the meal price, the tip in dollars, and the total of the meal plus the tip. These are not my requirements. These are the requirements that were in the book on this page, right here, page 347. The other one was page 303. All right? So here's the code that I wrote. And again, I'm telling you this, when I get done, you'll be like, I don't care, which is fine. But right at the end of class yesterday, I started feeling really, really sick. I got a really bad sinus headache right there. Felt like somebody hit me right there. It actually hurt. I couldn't even eat all my lunch because it hurt to chew. So Mr. Corrigan was good enough to give me some ibuprofen, which helped, but it didn't get rid of it. The reason I'm telling you that is I wrote this yesterday afternoon, but it was, after a while, it was hurting to type. So could I have done a better job? I'm sure I could have done a better job, but it works. So I just want to run over it with you and show you what I did. All right. Main is just a driver. So it says, now I'm calling, this is call number 1, this is call number 2, this is call number 3, this is call number 4, this is call number 5. All right, so it's going to print those right lines out. And notice every time it's calling show bill and tip, show bill and tip, show bill and tip, show bill and tip, show bill and tip. All right, so every time it's calling that. The first time we're calling it, we're passing in 100 for the price of the meal, but then -10, which doesn't make any sense. Oh yeah, I only want to pay $90, so I'm going to take $10 I would have given you otherwise, and I want you to give that to me. But I wanted to make sure the program handled a negative amount. Then I put in 100 and 15%. Does it make sense to everybody? If your meal is $100 and your tip is 15%, you should be leaving $115. Does that make sense? All right. Then we've got this one, where that's 100, and instead of putting in 0.2 for 20%, I put in 20, which means 2,000. So I wanted to make sure I could handle that. These three right here, we're all calling the first double-double. The last two are just calling double int. And I called once with an illegal value, once with a legal value. All right? So why am I telling you all that stuff? Because I wanted to explain to you what was going on in here. So here's if you pass two doubles. Somebody tell me what I'm doing here. There, in the blue. What I'm saying is, yeah, if for some reason you entered a negative amount for the bill, you hit the minus key for whatever reason, it's just going to put a minus in front of that, so minus will make it a positive value. Notice what I'm not doing in here. All right, I'm not doing the validation, or not much, just this, because I'm trying to follow their requirements. They didn't say anything about validation. All right. So that says if I passed in a negative value for a bill, I never did, but if I did, make sure it's positive. That's the first thing. All right? Then, secondly, if for some reason I put in a negative tip percent, turn that around also. Do the same thing. How about this? What is this saying? I'm on line 74 to 77. What is that saying? I think sometimes you people sell yourself short. I think you all understand what this is saying. Yeah, what I'm saying is if I passed in 20, the number 20, I really meant 20%. So if I passed in a number that's greater than 1, really I could have said greater than or equal to 1, because if I pass in a 1, that's 100% tip. Unless I'm married to the waitress, I'm probably not going to give them 100% tip. All right? So this says, again, this probably could have been greater than or equal to 1. So if that's the case, just divide it by 100. So that'll handle, in this case, when I pass in this, instead of it saying 20, it'll be 20 divided by 100, or 0.2. Does that make sense? All right. And then once I've done all that, what's my tip amount? It's the bill times whatever percent I put in. What's the total? It's the bill plus that tip amount. And then I write down the bill before the tip, the amount of the tip, the percentage of the bill, and the total amount of the bill. All right? Then when you look at this second one here, it's almost the same thing. Instead of saying double double, it's double int. So now, same kind of thing, if the bill's less than 0, if the tip's less than 0, okay? But the logic is a little bit different. Since we're passing in a number, it's no percentage. So the total bill is just the bill plus that number you passed in for the tip. And then we write the same kind of stuff. Now, if you look up on the screen here, please, now that I look at it, these 4 lines here, everybody see those 4 lines in blue, are virtually the same as these 4 lines here. I really should have written that as its own procedure, its own function. Does that make sense? All right, would have been cleaner to do it that way. So when we look at this and we run it, ideally what's going to happen here is this one is going to say $100 for the bill. The tip is 10%. Remember, it'll have to make it positive and then divide it by 100. So it'll say 10% tip. So it'll say $100, $10 tip, $110 for the total bill. Does that make sense? Then the second one will say $100 for the bill, 15% for the tip, which is $15, all right, which is $115 for your bill. This one should say $100. This should have been 20%. So it should say $100 for the bill, 20% for the tip, which is $20, 100 plus $20, which is $120. All right? Then this one is pretty much the same as the last one. $100 for the bill. It'll make that 20. All right? And so it'll be $120. Because remember, that's just a number. That's the number you're giving for the tip. This one will be $125. So let's run it and see if indeed that's what I get. Don't know what that did. Okay, for some reason, didn't bring up the entire program. No. So let me try bringing it up again. I've given you the whole program. All right. Do that one in just a minute. I don't even know where it is there, so grab it from here. So again, then when I run this, not very pretty to look at, but it's functional. All right. So the first time, 100, we passed in -10, which we converted to +10, and we made it a percentage. So 100 plus 10 is $110. And you can see the rest. Does what you're being asked to do here make sense? All right. When you take your test next week on chapters 6, 7, and 8, it'll be there's two problems. Both problems will force you to use arrays. All right. Also, both problems will force you to use, I don't want any real code in your buttons and whatever. I want you to be calling routines. All right. Now, this wasn't that great of an example, but it worked. So I want to take just a couple minutes because some of you are already done with the code for chapter 6. So I very quickly want to just go over here what you'll be doing. Okay. So for chapters 7, back. For chapter 7, you are to do numbers 4, 5, and 6. All right. So number 4, create an application named kilometers or convert miles to kilometers. This is really simple. It's not that different from what we did the first time, one of the first programs we did. But I want you to do that, and as much as possible, don't put any code in your buttons other than calls to routines. Does that make sense? I want you to write modular code. Number 5, I just went over with you a few minutes ago. Gave you an example. You can either use my example or you can write your own. Number 6, create an application for a library and name it Find for Overdue Books. All right. It says the main asks this, etc. So what you should do is you should write different routines to handle each one of these tasks. I will tell you, these are probably 3 of the easier programs considering where we are in here right now. But I want you to get used to the idea of writing routines and calling routines rather than putting the code in our buttons click event, having the click event call routines. All right. Then for chapter 8, you will do numbers 3, 5, and 7. Number 3, create a program for a small town regional airport called Flights that accepts either a flight number or an airport code. What does that mean? That means you are going to have an overloaded method. Everybody hear that? One of those methods, whatever you call it. All right. One will accept an integer, and it'll be one of these. One will accept a string, which will be one of these. All right. Then it says, pass the user's entry to one of 2 overloaded getFlight methods. It's really not a hard program. All right. So you'll do that one. And number 5, I already went through with you the tip calculation. Yeah, I still want you to do number 5 on both chapters. And number 7, which again is a fairly simple program. Write a program named averages that includes a method that accepts any number of numeric parameters, displays them, and displays their average. All right. Again, none of these are hard programs, but I want you to get used to writing methods and also overloaded methods. All right. We're going to talk about that. Chapter 8 is harder, as you probably guessed, than Chapter 7. Tomorrow, when you come in here, like I said, since we had a lot of people missing, more filtering in, but since we had a lot of people missing, all right, we're going to take the test tomorrow morning. the Chapter 6 written test. As soon as you get in here, we'll do the review, then take the test. After that's over, I will go over Chapter 7. All right? Then on Friday, I will go over Chapter 8. You should have at least an hour and a half to 2 hours both days to work on homework. So if you are behind, please try to catch up. Again, if you are behind and you don't know what you owe me, etc., go into Inside Rankin and take a look. All right? I am willing to give partial credit if you're turning in stuff late. You won't get full credit. You know, if Luke turns in something on time and then James turns the same thing in, but it's 2 weeks late, it's not fair that they're both can get the same amount. But you'll get at least 50%. And again, so far I think we've had like 8 assignments. 25 points each. That's 200 points. 100 points is better than 0 points. All right. Last thing I wanted to show you quickly, because I want to give you plenty of time today, is this was that thing that I gave you. All right. So again, I'm going to change that around a little bit. The written test, again, will be tomorrow. Okay, we just did the 7 and 8 examples. All right. I just wanted to show you this other one that I asked you to do here, this create a console program. Take your time with that one, because there is an example on the test which is similar to that one. Is it identical? No. But if you can go through this and understand it, it'll help you. The other one is not that different from this one. Again, is it the same? No. But both of them are very similar. I will go over how I did both of these on Tuesday of next week. No, I'm not going to give electronic copies. No, I'm not going to give hard copies. But I will tape what I'm doing. And I just wanted to show you. Is it a big thing? No. But I wanted to show you with the one with parallel arrays, number 2, because I did that one yesterday afternoon when I got done with a fortune teller one. So this is how mine looks. Right now, and hopefully when I'm about to tell you, if I tell you this and you go, well, duh, that's a good thing. All right, but look on the screen if you would, please. It says you are to work with 3 parallel arrays. Each of them should hold 10 elements. Does that make sense? 10 first names, 10 last names, 10 scores. Makes sense, right? When you're testing this, don't make it 10. Make it like 3. Change it eventually to 10. But why do you really want to type in 10 first names, 10 last names, and 10 scores? You can if you want to. But by doing it like that, when I'm testing at least, now I only have to put in 3. So I run this. Please enter the name of student 1. Please enter the name of student 2. All right? Please enter the name of student 3. Now you should be able to look at that and know a few things right now. First, Chris will have the high grade. I'll have the low grade. And the average will be 196 and 78. All right, so like 274 divided by 3, which will be about a 91. Does all that make sense? So there was the low score. It was me, and it was a 78. There was the high score. It was Chris, and it was 100. There was the average. All right. I will go over this with you, and I will show you every line of code I put in next week. And I will tape it. All right. But it's more important to me that you try this yourselves. I will tell you that if you really give an effort and you try to do both these two on this handout that I gave you yesterday, all right, if you try those, even if it's not great, but they work or they get close, it's going to really help you a hell of a lot on the test. All right, I'm not going to say, because people, does that mean I'll get an A? How the hell do I know? All right. I always say when you ask me questions like that, it's like when my kids used to ask me irritating questions. I never hit my kids, except my oldest daughter got spanked twice, and then I stopped. But, you know, my dad, when I'd ask him a question he didn't like it, he'd pop me in the mouth. That's just how he was. So don't ask questions like that. I don't want to get upset. All right. Does everybody understand what this is supposed to be doing? And you're supposed to be able to run it again. Yes. All right, now I can put in 3 more students. But eventually, when you've done that and it works, yeah, then change that back to 10. Okay? I think for the test, there's like 4. Okay, I didn't want it where it would be really, where you'd be typing a ton. I just thought that'd be stupid. All right. Questions? Okay, so it's 8:40. You're taking your breaks when you want to take your breaks. The rest of the period is lab. Again, our tutor will be here if he was going to Walmart to try to get a better battery. I got a feeling he's not going to be the only one at Walmart today looking for a better battery. Right? So.